We come together this day. We come together this day to remind one another to rest on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into each other's faces and see community and connection and the reflection of our own eyes in the face of others. May this gathering of laughter and silence, this gathering of memory and hope, this gathering that is in the shade with a breeze, reconnect us to the mystery that is both beyond and within each and every one of us this day. And let us all say, good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you all, and welcome here to our outdoor service, First Parish Church al fresco. We are delighted to have you all here on this Sunday of June 6th. We are gathering for a fun and engaging service here on the hottest day of the year so far, and a perfect day for our annual picnic. We are bringing out more chairs as we have a crowd here this day, and people I think will be continuing to arrive. You are invited, because these chairs move around, you are invited to follow the shade if you choose to do so as the sun continues its migration through the trees above as we gather here. As for this service, we endeavor to keep these services timely and engaging and hopeful with a little bit of something for everybody. That will be true this morning. After months of recording these services indoors and remotely amidst an empty sanctuary where sometimes the sound system doesn't work always as one would hope, like last week, it is truly a gift to be outside with those of you here today, gathered beneath this gorgeous canopy of blue and green leaves to worship, to give thanks, to be reminded of our best selves, and to come away renewed. Our service participants this day include Paul and Evie Nolan, who are our chalice lighters. Our pianist is Jeffrey Weeding. Our music director is Bill Sano, and I'm delighted to have back with us members of our choir, who are assembled here today for the first time in over a year. We will talk about that in a little while hence. Our service is recorded and produced today by Max Hall, Jacob Barz-Snell, and Jonah Barz-Snell. Since we are recording this service, we have included the hymns in the order of service. They are at the insert there. With that first hymn, just be mindful you have to actually flip it and turn it in order to continue to follow the music. We wanted this to be a challenge for you all. The order of service is also just for later viewing purposes posted on our website. There should be an edited version of this service posted either later today or sometime tomorrow. With that being said, I invite you to all please rise up as you are inclined in body and or in spirit, and join with me in singing a few verses of Gather the Spirit. Amen. I invite you to be seated, and please join with me in saying together the congregational prayer found in your order of service. O God, grant us your vision in our time. Help us to write it so large that even a runner can see it. Make it so compelling that even a cynic will pause, so convincing that a skeptic will risk trying to bring hope to others, and so inspiring that those who are open to your presence will stand courageously in faith, leaving the results to you. This we ask in the Spirit of your Son Jesus, who taught us to pray, saying together, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And now I'd like to call forward Paul and Evie Nolan to light our chalice.
Hello, I'm Paul Nolan. My wife Olga's not able to make it today. Our son Frankie was sick last night, and both of them are resting now, and hopefully they'll be here for the picnic. In the mystery of life about us, there is light. It gives us a place to be, to grow, and to rejoice together. It opens the pathways to love and to purpose. In this place of friendship and community, there are glimmers of this light, and we celebrate it this day with the lighting of our chalice. Let the light we kindle go before us, strong in hope, large in goodwill, inviting the day to come.
Thank you, Paul and Evie. I now invite you to stand up just for a second and wave or greet. Feel free to say hello to those standing nearby. It's a time to just wish someone well, wish them a happy summer. If you want, you can text or call someone just for a moment. This is great. Wait to hear the choir sing. I know. I can assure you, you will have time to chat after the service as well, here on the day of our annual picnic. What a gift to be able to greet somebody in person. That simple opportunity and experience of seeing someone's face after this long and arduous period of time that we've gone through. We feel that truly as a blessing. That is for sure. I have just a brief time for all ages this day, since we have a multitude of ages in our midst. Some of them are wearing yellow shoes, and some of them are wearing white shoes, and some of the young in heart are wearing beige shoes. And I just wanted to share this story since I was thinking about it this week. Some of you may have heard this tale. It's actually a Native American legend of sorts, often attributed to the Cherokee. But when I did research, I found that this tale probably was originated by the Inuit up in Canada, maybe. It has been shared by everyone from the Dalai Lama to Billy Graham to Og Mandino. Does anyone remember him? To Oprah. There's quite a range. But it is a lovely story, and I want to share it this day. Once upon a time, there was an old Cherokee grandfather who was talking about life to his grandson, a little boy standing next to him. And he said that there is a fight going on inside of us all of the time. And it is a terrible fight between two wolves. Do you know what a wolf is? Yeah? Yeah, is a wolf happy or is a wolf mean? Big bad wolf, yes. So this is a fight between a big bad wolf and a big good wolf. And it's going on all the time inside all of us. One of the wolves is mean. He's angry, he's envious, he has sorrow and regret and greed and arrogance and self-pity and guilt and resentment, and he eats piggies when he can. He actually prefers barbecue these days, but that's okay. He lies. He's superior. He's egotistical. And then on the other side, weighing in at 165 pounds. No, on the other side is a good wolf. And this good wolf is full of joy and peace and love and hope and serenity and humility and kindness and benevolence and empathy and truth and compassion and faith. And the same fight is always going on inside of us, between these two wolves, inside each and every one of us. And there was this long pause after the grandfather described this to the grandson. And the grandson looked up and he asked, what do you think he asked? What do you think he asked, Julio? Huh? Who's going to win? And the grandfather put up his finger and he said, well, that's easy. The one you feed. The one you feed. And then the grandfather said, however, you can't just feed one wolf. You got to feed the good wolf, but you also have to support the bad wolf and get the bad wolf to trust you. And ask the bad wolf why he's feeling inferior and why he's feeling sad and why he's feeling angry and why he's doing sometimes mean things. And try to coax him into being in a better mood. And that's actually a good description of the life of faith, of the journey that we're all on, to take the good and the bad and create something worth living and dying for. Feeding the good wolf and supporting the bad wolf. I'd like to think that this church, in many ways, has spent the last year trying to feed our own good wolf and trying to resist the impulses of that bad wolf, to just close in within ourselves, to not do anything, to simply protect, to lock up the building. And we've done that in a variety of different ways, both big and small, over the last year. It hasn't always been easy. There have been times when we weren't sure what to do, but we erred on the side of doing something. And for that, I am both grateful and proud. We made a monster. You know what? We're all monsters. We're all monsters just trying to be better better people. Right. You should do this. Maybe next time. The reading for this day is an excerpt from Matthew 25, the Gospel of Matthew from the Christian New Testament. This is the last parable, the last story that Jesus shared in the Gospel of Matthew before the account of his arrest and crucifixion and death. Hear now the judgment of the nations. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the nations with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. And all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right hand, and he will put the goats on his left. And then the king will say to those on his right hand, Come, come, you are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. Here ends the reading. So this morning on this hot June morning, I don't plan to preach per se, but rather I want to take just a few minutes to acknowledge some of the people who have made a real difference in how our congregation has worked and how our congregation has responded over the last very strange and quite challenging 12 months. None of us have ever lived through a pandemic before, unless we are over the age of 100. Is anyone here over the age of 100? Don't be shy. And I think it is safe to say that none of us realized a year ago last March what was in store and how much our lives were about to change. We held our last regular service indoors on Sunday, March 8th, 2020. That was the last time our choir performed together in person until just a moment ago. It's literally been 15 months since we've been able to gather in person as a choir to rehearse and to sing. I walked in this morning, saw them gathered in the parlor singing, and I almost had tears come to my eyes. What a lovely sight. And so I just want to acknowledge our choir for a moment and thank them for their good faith, their good work, and their goodwill during this last year. It has been quite a journey, as you all know. As many of us realize, our choir did not just simply disband and disappear during the pandemic. They found new ways of making music together, but at a distance. They continued to meet on Thursday nights, for the most part, to check in with one another and figure out what they could do. And there have been several people instrumental in what our music program has been able to accomplish. First, I want to thank Bill Sano and Jeff Wheating for their efforts. For their patience, for their good humor behind the scenes. When we switched to an all-virtual service in the middle of March of last year, it transformed each of our jobs and positions here at First Parish, and not in ways that we necessarily liked. We were all forced to innovate and approach our duties in ways that we never imagined. I know it has been a lot of work, and at times I know it has been quite stressful, but we were able to transition to an online service format and do something none of us had ever done before. And so thank you both for your efforts and contributions and leadership over this last year. It has not been easy, and I, of all people, know that. I also want to thank Larry and Mary Shaw, there's Mary, and their company, Boston Light and Sound, for helping us make that transition to online worship. The equipment we purchased from them and the training and guidance they provided proved invaluable in making that transition to an online or virtual space. And as a result, we have totally transformed our little side room off the sanctuary that holds the minister's robes and file cabinets of sheet music. That little room has been transformed into a control room. If you haven't seen it, I invite you to check out our video and audio control room. Today, during the picnic, the building is open. Feel free to stick your head in there. It's a little bit cluttered, but it's also quite impressive in a way. We now have a video production room from which we can operate cameras and microphones, and in which we can edit and produce our weekly service programs, and we do. This too did not happen by accident. I don't think most of us realize how much work, how much technical know-how occurs behind the scenes to produce these services each week. Starting last April, I realized that we needed some additional staff to help us operate our video and sound equipment and edit our videos. And we had a few young people from the church who stepped up and stepped forward. Max Hall, who started off this high and has now gone this high in the time that I've known him. And then my two sons, Jacob and Jonah, spent one day a week during the pandemic recording, editing, and producing our services. This group was later joined by Laurel Kulo last winter. We actually honored Laurel a couple weeks ago before she left. I want to note, though, that the whole video production system has been partly designed and then upgraded and redesigned by that young man in the blue shirt standing behind the camera, Max Hall. Max brought a technical expertise far beyond his years. And I want to thank his parents, Matt and Kristen, wherever they are. I think there they are. I want to thank Matt and Kristen, who are here with us this day, for having the good sense to make sure that Max took a sophisticated video editing class at Nobles last year. Because, boy, did that come in handy. And in some ways, you could use that as a tax deduction here. Talk about being in the right place at the right time. The choir and the music committee would like to take a moment to acknowledge the work of Max and Jacob and Jonah. And I want to call Linda Kilburn forward, or are we going to perform first and then speak? I'll turn it over to you. Turn it over to Don. Don Pearson. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. At the May 11th meeting of the Standing Committee, it was voted to grant special recognition to the 4 members of our audiovisual tech team who have worked tirelessly during the long COVID pandemic period to enable us to convert from live services and musical performances to the online format. As Jeff described, how indebted we are to Larry Shaw and his team to set it in place, and then to Max Hall, and then the 2 people recruited by our local reliable recruiter to join Max, and then the expertise that Laurel Kulu brought to the team. And Laurel has already been presented with this, but we do have a frame certificate and a bonus check to present to Max Hall, Jonah Barz-Snell, and Jacob Barz-Snell. If you would come forward so that I could give these to you. Let's see if I can get them straight. Here's Max and Jacob and Jonah and Max. Your check is maybe in the bag. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I might add, in addition to Max editing with the individual recordings of the up to 26 choir members, some of whom were returning, some were continuing, some were newly recorded, week in and week out, and putting all of that together, which brought acclaim from viewers across the country as well as Canada for how remarkable that was. And then it's rumored on a good source that Jacob was behind the post-production levity that we all enjoyed, which included bringing Bernie Sanders to Weston and raps, and I think the bagman who was drafted often turned out to be Jonah. So thank you all for that. And now I turn the microphone over to Linda Kilburn, who will provide an additional commendation to Max from the choir.
Max, we do have one more thing to hand over to you, and it's a very trite saying. It's long been around, but we could never have done it without you. Could you come forward once more, please? We found out that Max is very good at directing. He even told me what to do from time to time. Not an easy thing and so forth. So for your future directing, we felt this was the most appropriate over here. Use it next year. Take it to college with you in a year from now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Max?
Extra tall for you.
Extra tall, right, okay. All yours, okay? Thank you. Okay. Okay, choir, you know how we do this. I'm going to count to 3. You're going to clap along with me. Are your recording devices on?
Yeah.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
fireworks shut down, singing was taboo. Sent us home all alone, we despaired. Next thing we knew, church was closed too. Virtual options seemed like a plan. Nancy rescued us. Get out your headphones, iPads and iPhones. Learning curve was tough. 26 members taken from home, all sent stuff to math. ABT so supreme he could rest. Build space clear on what he expects. Then we worked hard, their weekends were shot. Highly them we raised. Numerous endings, just endings. We think they're just great. Mary sent music, Larry advised. Bill conducts our song. Jackie plays the organ, helps us learn our parts. Session leaders keep us from wrong. Together we did it, we all give our thanks. We have made it through. Now all together, before the spring weather, we now sing to you. We now sing to you.
Wow and wow. Take that, Paul McCartney. So the work of our online services over the last year was perhaps the most visible indication of how our congregation was responding to the pandemic. I also want to hold up one other important effort and initiative over the last 14 months. In March of last year, about the same time we were figuring out how to record and share our services online, Steve Hibbert, who's here this morning, where's Steve? I think there he is, Steve and Jenny, sent me an email. He told me he was talking to Ginny and some of their friends about the first round of stimulus checks that had been announced as part of the Federal CARES Act that had been passed last year after the economy began to tank. Steve wondered if there could be a way to create a relief and support fund to which people could donate some or all of their CARES check if they themselves did not think that they needed it. I like that idea a lot. I had actually created a temporary relief fund 12 years ago during the last major economic crisis in 2009. Does everyone remember that time? That was the financial crisis that was the result of an implosion because some of this country's largest investment banks overextended themselves and speculating on credit default swaps. And as a result, tens of millions of people lost their jobs. That's a story for another day, however. What was clear, though, at that time is that people who had suddenly never experienced any difficulty found themselves suddenly destitute and with no work and no options for paying their mortgages and rent. I helped create a small program on the North Shore that assisted local families in staying afloat. And I wondered if such a model could work here again in Weston, in this area. So I went to Madeline Kenyon and the Outreach Committee, and then to Todd Foote and the Finance Committee, and I proposed that our congregation create a Weston Cares Fund. I think at first they were quite skeptical, since it involved the church serving as a fiscal sponsor for the fund. Here they come. Every single Sunday morning. Right around this time, too. It's amazing. I hope they're okay. Whoever they're going to, I hope they're okay. I think, as I said, I think they were at first skeptical, since the church was going to be serving as a fiscal sponsor for the fund, the way I proposed it, and it required that a group of volunteers step in to help manage the applications. My pitch was to create a community fund and invite all the people, everyone everyone in Weston, everyone in the area to donate their CARES check or more to it with the assurance that 100% of what was donated, 100% of the monies would then go to assist local nonprofits and local families in need. The church office would then manage the administrative needs, and a group of volunteers would work as caseworkers, if you would, for those applying for assistance. It was admittedly sort of ambitious, and I'm not sure anyone really thought it was going to get off the ground until we created a website. We created this draft website with the expert support of Larry Grobe, and all of a sudden our outreach committee rallied around it, and we developed a set of applications and procedures for our work that we've continued to refine. While our vision was to have this be a community-wide fund and effort, it would not have gotten off the ground were it not for the work and initial support of Madeline Kenyon, of Ellen Tort Grobe, Camille Schmidtick, and Cynthia Brisky. I was then delighted when we were joined. We were joined by Paul Lualdi from the Weston Rotary Club, by Adrienne Proulx from the Women's Community League of Weston, by Lynn Song from St. Julia's for a period of time, and Carolyn Peters, also here from First Parish Church, but had gone on and was doing other things with her life. Carolyn actually brought very much needed skills as a Spanish speaker to our group, since we had a whole Spanish application process. We have met as a group on Zoom almost every single week since last May, reaching out to local nonprofits and individuals, reviewing applications, verifying references, determining grants, and trying to help as many people as we can with the monies that had been donated. To date, the Weston Cares Fund has raised about $194,000 and has helped over 20 local nonprofit agencies and about 70 or more families. This is not easy work. Because of our intake process, because of the application procedure that we have, the Weston Cares Fund has been able to assist families and individuals sick with COVID that might not qualify for other forms of local assistance. Imagine being sick with COVID. Imagine being behind on your rent and having little or no food in your refrigerator and cupboard, and having 2 kids with you also at home. We have met people who live within a 10-minute drive of where we are standing and sitting right now who would fit that description, and worse. And the Weston Cares Fund has been able to make a difference. Not a huge difference always, but a difference. I am so very proud of the work of this steering committee. They have worked hard and contributed their time, their talents, and their all-important connections to this effort. Between marketing and fundraising and donor cultivation and nonprofit outreach and case management, this group has had a very busy 12 to 13 months. And I'd like to invite them to come forward and be acknowledged as I call out their names. Cynthia Brisky, Madeline Kenyon, Paul Lualdi, just stand in front of the table. Thank you. Carolyn Peters, Adrienne Proulx, I don't think she's here today. She's in Florida, unfortunately. Camille Schmidtick, Ellen Tort Grobe, could we all give them a hand for their efforts? As I noted, it has been a delight and it has been an honor to work with each of you and all of you to accomplish something that none of us could have achieved by ourselves. That's what a community like this one, that's what a larger community like Weston should be and is about. So thank you for bringing out our best and doing it with such good humor and panache and capability behind the scenes. Winston Churchill once said, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." So thank you for contributing to our collective life here in 2021. So last year, as I noted, when the economy declined precipitously and when a mysterious life-threatening virus was circulating, it was so very tempting to retreat into the safety of our homes and the stability of a town bubble like Weston. It was tempting to focus on the immediate needs and protect ourselves and our families. And yet, this congregation found ways to reach out and make a difference in the lives of our members and in the lives of people in our larger community and area. The parable we heard this morning from the Gospel of Matthew reminds us of the importance of doing just that. This is the last teaching. This is the last story, the parting thought that the writers of the Gospel of Matthew offer us before the concluding section of the Gospel that tells the story of Jesus' arrest and death. This is the final teaching, and the message is quite clear. When we find ways to serve people who are hungry and thirsty, when we find ways to visit those in prison, when we find ways to create programs to help those suffering during a pandemic, we are in a very real way serving that which is holy and decent in this life. Truly, I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. I am so proud to be part of a community that errs on the side of making a difference, that errs on the side of kindness and compassionate engagement, even when we don't quite know what we're doing. During a year when all of us have been challenged and stretched, I hope we now come away from this experience with some sense of accomplishment, some sense of pride in the ways that we have been able to do things that help others and ourselves, and an appreciation for our blessings amidst the stresses and strains of the larger world. Here's to a healthy and peaceful and socially connected and in-person summer. We all deserve that. Can I get an amen? Amen. Our offering for the ongoing life and work and collective ministry of this church will now be received. We don't circulate our plates just yet, but there is a box, an offering box on the back if you are inclined to make a donation. Otherwise, we happily accept donations by mail, by website, by PayPal. There are so many ways that you can make a donation these days.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust your wisdom in your heart, every color, every creed and kind, when we see our faces in each other's eyes, and our heart is in the holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from the inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's
Thank you for joining us today. We invite you to join us after the service today for our picnic, our annual picnic. It's going to be mercifully under the trees in the playground over here. We will continue with the loveliness of the breeze and the shade as much and as far as we can. This week we will host our regular programs and offerings, including Knitters and Stitchers tomorrow at noon, our Wednesday morning meditation program on Zoom at 8:30 a.m. I also want to note, as it's listed in the order of service and the announcements, that our book group will be meeting this Thursday to discuss Nathaniel Philbrick's In the Heart of the Sea, the tragedy of the whale ship Essex. When you are walking in and around the building today, I hope you will take a moment to check out the art gallery exhibit that we have on display. We now have actually a virtual art exhibit and a real, a physical art exhibit in our art gallery, and I recommend them both to you. There's information in here about the various artists that are being displayed. I also want to invite people to, if you haven't yet, or if you'd like to pick up one of our peace rainbow flags. Next Sunday, we actually are going to be hosting a Pride-themed service here under the trees, God willing, and with special music and the like. But if you'd like to display a rainbow peace flag on or about your property or your house, you are welcome. The green bin is back there. Feel free to pick one up. We had a big bin of flags, and a lot of them have already been taken, which is a good sign. That will be next Sunday. I also want to note that our concluding live service for this year will be on Sunday, June 20th. We will be meeting here, God willing, under the trees for an outdoor flower communion service, which is a Unitarian tradition of sorts. Lovely way to end the church season. All of you are invited to bring a flower to church on that day to share with those assembled. I think that's it in the way of announcements. There's also information in here about General Assembly, which will be the last week of June, the annual meeting for the UUA. We continue, as I like to say, we continue to find ways to participate as members of an active community of faith from a distance and occasionally now together. I'm gratified to see so many of us stepping up and reaching out and making a difference in moments of service and grace. That's what churches like ours do. Our closing hymn this day is only on one page of the piece of paper, so it should be easy to read. Life is the greatest gift of all. Thank you all for being here today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord keep all those whom you love, whether here or in some other place. May God be your companion, and you be God's friend, as you walk together through all the days of your life. And at the journey's end, may you find the welcome of God's love. It keeps us all. Amen. And happy picnic.